I'd argue about that one. Depends on what you had for dinner the night before. I went to go buy a DeWalt finish nailer today. Couldn't find one anywhere in a local store, and I found this Bostitch in Lowe's, and I looked at the battery on there, and I'm like, hey, that kind of looks like the 50 zillion other DeWalt batteries I have. And I thought, well, what are the odds? Maybe I'll buy this thing and see if I can get it to work with the DeWalt. I get the thing home, and I line up the batteries, and they're pretty darn close. They're almost the same thing, but I at first I couldn't quite figure out what the difference was. So I checked the specs on the bottom, very, very similar, everything. And then I was super excited when I saw that these markings were identical. And since this is owned by Stanley, I figured that, you know, why would they reinvent the wheel and have a whole line of other batteries? So I went to slide the Bostitch into my DeWalt, and it stops because of this thing right here. So I thought, well, you know, I could probably grind that off, but that's a lot of plastic. If you can see, whoops. You can see there's quite a bit of plastic on there, and I was a little leery of that. Then I decided to take one of my beefy DeWalts and stick it on the back of the Bostitch, and it almost fit, except that the back of this was actually squared off, and as you can see, the shape right there, that's square. If you look at the DeWalt, it's got an angle on it. And so I thought, well, there's a lot less plastic on the back of the nail gun. So I took it to the grinder over there, and I ground that to about the shape of the battery. As you can see, that little swoopy thing right there. It's got a little bit of a swoopy, whereas this guy's got not so much of a swoopy. See that? Not so swoopy. Pretty much squared off. Ground this guy off, and sure enough, the battery, does lock in there, and when you hit the button, the lights light up, and sure enough, it does fire up. So all my 80 zillion DeWalt batteries are not going to go to waste. Plus, this gun looks suspiciously like a DeWalt. Actually, the color is not that far off, if you notice, either. It's kind of funny. But anyways, little tip for anyone out there, if you're in a hurry to buy something and you can't find one or the other, if they're the 20 volt Max or XRs, they, you know, with a little bit of modification, it looks like you could switch them out. So at least you can go from this guy to this guy by doing a little bit of a grind. I don't know about switching them the other way because of this. You know, there's quite a bit of plastic to grind off a battery to get it to fit into the DeWalt. But at least you know you've got some other options in a bind.